Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen. I will be your host for great conversation for the next hour. I am in the studio, and I want to apologize in advance because I'm noticing as I'm looking at our social media stream that we are having some seriously slow internet going on. Our Wi-Fi seems to be moving at a snail's pace on today. So for those of you who are listening via social media, we want to apologize in advance. I want to also let you know that you can listen to this broadcast and other broadcasts in their entirety by going to kisswtlz.com. When you get on the page, you'll see shows and you'll be able to hit my name, go down and listen to this show in its entirety. You can do that right from the main screen, or go out and check other shows that have been formulated into podcasts by the man who's sitting across from me, my producer. What's going on, Matt? We call him White Soul.
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing today, Mr. Kareem?
I'm doing, Matt. When I give you that kind of introduction, you got to come in. You got to be like, "Hey, how you doing?
How are you doing?" I don't know. I've never really done that before.
Don't worry about it. Great to see you in the first person in social media stream that I am seeing is Miss Shar Goolsby. Shar, so great to have you with us on today. Today, we're going to be talking about the need to build strong partnerships. And there's a reason why I want to have that conversation with us today, because there's some things that are happening, some things that are already in place that are going to be necessary for us to understand the importance of what it means to have strong partnerships. Most of us don't really understand what that means. We're going to talk about that a little bit today, because our strength and our vitality as a village is going to really hinge on the partnerships that we're able to create as we begin to move forward. I also, you know what we do? We get straight to what's on my mind. But before I do that, I have to begin by sharing a sincere thank you for all the love, prayers, and concerns. For those of you who sent me messages and well wishes, I've been gone away from the show in terms of its live broadcast. We had a death in the family. My stepfather's grandmother, who my dad's grandmother, he is in essence the one. When I think of dad, he's the one who raised me. So my dad's mom, we were down, and I was in Mississippi. Now I got to tell y'all this because this is so funny to me. Matt, you wouldn't think about it, but when I got to Mississippi, there were so many people who listened to this show in Mississippi, and I started laughing when they started telling me, yeah, we tune in. A number of them are listening in social media land. Others are going directly to kisswtlz.com listening to the show. So it's good to know that we are not just the Michigan Bay region, but we are actually doing great things across the country. I know Texas is listening. They were there over the course of this weekend. Folks from Maryland and Southern Maryland, got family and friends that are listening to the show religiously. Shar Goolsby, the first that was in the social media stream today, she is not a person from the Michigan Bay region, but she is actually down in the Detroit area. And she's a jet setter, so she's global. But we want to thank you all for your continual listenership. It is your listenership and your continual being a part of what we're doing that makes what we're doing even a viable opportunity. So thank you. Continue to like, tag, and share. Yes, collaboration and shared resources. Continue to like and tag and share this conversation with others that may need to be a part of this conversation, because we're building an audience for the village, and whatever village you may live in. Maybe you're in Michigan in a village, maybe you're in Flint, maybe you're in Detroit. You could be in North Carolina, West Charlotte, down in North Carolina, wherever your village may be. We're providing conversations and meaningful conversations that will help you to rebuild the walls of our community. All right. I want to give a shout out. I want to begin to make sure that we understand that Black history is not just in the month of February, but we are 365 Black. At least I am. And on this day in Black history, October 1st, 1962, James Meredith became the first Black student at the University of Mississippi after 3,000 federal troops quailed riots against his admission. That was in 1962, October 1st. That is the day we're standing on today. And then also worth noting is that on October 2nd, in 1967, these dates are getting real close to home. Not that long ago, Thurgood Marshall sworn in as the first Black Supreme Court justice. And so we want to salute those who have made contributions to our existence, because we stand on the shoulders of some amazing people. The SIP got it going on now. Great evening. I'm not sure what that means, but God bless you all. I wanted to say, this is what's really on my mind. I saw something today that I was like, wow, I smiled from ear to ear. Congressman Jasmine Crockett, she is one of the Democrat congresswomen out of Texas. There is a social media reel. I happen to catch a piece of it on one of the news programs, one of the national news networks. She went in on Congress. They were talking about whether or not to to impeach Joe Biden, and they were talking about the proceedings, because these proceedings are moving forward. He was already going to be, a candidate for impeachment before he even started being the president. But they were sharing on here. She began to stand up, and she said she just went off in Congress about the 91 counts against the former number 45 president. And everything that he has done, and the investigations that are going on, and finding documents in Mar-a-Lago and in bathrooms on the property. And they are trying to bring charges up against Sleepy Joe, current President Biden. And she just went off. It is something worth watching. I'll tell you once again, Congressman Jasmine Crockett, she lays down the law as it relates to a president. And she said that the thing that they've been able to find, since there's no real information, is that he was willing to love his child, his son, without hesitation and without limit. And I thought that was a powerful statement to make. We have to get to a place that we got to realize people are going to love their children. We want them to love them to no limit. A great evening to you, Rosa Williams. Thank you for all that you help that you are and help enduring the youth and city. She's talking about help. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. The next thing that's on my mind, and this is a celebratory moment. Today I've been having trouble getting my tongue to work. I was Peter Peck, the Papa Pecker Pipples. Y'all remember what that tongue twister was. I had that moment happen to me today. Good evening, Gloria Smith, to you as well. But we celebrated on the 26th of last month, September, the investiture ceremony for Dr. George Grant, who is the 5th president of Saginaw Valley State University and the first president of color, first Black man as a president. Notice I didn't say African American because we Black, right? But he was the first Black president inducted into the university, and his investiture ceremony, and that word investiture is something that is really an old English kind of thing. English universities used, and it modeled it after this highly dignified knighthood ceremony in which the individual was given their official title. And the term investiture actually is a Latin phrase for dress in robe. So it was when they were given their official title and they were giving him some official garbs and his dress for his office as Le President. So we certainly say congratulations to Dr. Grant. I've spoken with so many administration and students, and they are excited to have him on campus. He will be with the Students of Impact on October 10th at 7 p.m. at Saginaw Valley State University. So we're excited because representation matters. Many people don't think about it, but representation does matter, and he understands the assignment. I'll just say it that way. The next thing I want to talk about is that the NAACP, they had their Freedom Fund banquet. Congratulations to them on such a great turnout. They were sold out before the event even started. And they had as the speaker, the first Black Speaker of the House, Joe Tate. Had an opportunity to meet him on several occasions. A powerful, intelligent, well-spoken Black brother who I enjoy hearing him share his stories of overcoming and being a trailblazer. So congratulations to the NAACP and all of those honorees that were associated with that particular program. I want to give a shout out to my girl, Kanika Owens Robinson Pugh. I think I got it right this time. She has become the chair for that and is doing such a wonderful job. Great job to you. Kudos, kudos, kudos. I want us to turn our attention to something that took place over the course of this weekend. One of our people that are in the social media stream started talking about help. She was talking about thank you for all you're doing out there with help. I think it was Rosa Williams. Yes, it was. And I got to tell y'all something, man. When we talk about things that are life changing, and I say this, as you know, I just hit the bit double nickel this past year, so that means I'm 50 years old. I still feel young, y'all. But I turned that double nickel, that double quarter, 50 years old, and I've been a part of a lot of things, a part of a lot of organizations, a part of a lot of meetings and groups that have had great intentions to do great things. But I've never been a part of such a meaningful brotherhood. And I say this as we're talking about repairing the village, as we're talking about collaboration, as we're talking about partnerships. It has been such an amazing journey with these brothers. Shout out to Saginaw Cap, who's also in the social media stream, my brother Jeff Bulls. And I got to say this because I don't know what it is. And this is why I know that this is something that is greater than just one individual. This is not my group. I know that there's been statements out there purported that it's the mayor's group. But the reality of the situation is this is a group of brothers who are tired of violence happening in our community. I think it's important to understand that this group of men came together, this band of brothers, for the purpose of quelling gun violence in our community, doing something positive. And I was asked the question by our mayor, and I do want to say this because she gets a lot of credit for our coming together, even though this is not her group. And I want to say this. She and I were talking, as we often do, and she asked me a question. She says, Kareem, if we are going to do anything about gun violence, she says, I'm tired of making press releases and telling parents that they're going to be okay and things are going to get better, only to turn around and have to deal with more senseless gun violence in our community and people dying, young babies dying in the street. And she was very emotional, I remember, in this conversation. And she says, what are your thoughts in terms of what we should do? And when I shared with her what I was thinking, she says, oh, my goodness, you're thinking the same way. And so we both came to an understanding that if change was going to happen, this is not something that the police are going to be able to do by themselves. This is not something that our city manager, and I know there's a lot of people who enjoy pointing fingers at people and blaming everybody for it. But the fact of the matter is that violence has been here longer than we have been in existence as individuals. And she began to just kind of share about, where her heart was. And so we pulled in some brothers, just a group of, I think, 5, maybe 10 brothers, I think, initially, and just kind of pitched to them, look, how tired and fed up are you with violence in our community? Because the fact of the matter is that nothing is ever going to change until we're tired of seeing what we have been seeing in our communities. And these brothers began to just share their thoughts and their ideas. And as we were doing this, I'll tell you what was so amazing was the relationship and the bonding and the brotherhood that existed. I have never in my entire life been a part of a group of brothers, strong Black brothers, in which I have felt like these brothers, like we really were a band of brothers from, the movie 300. We were standing, hoorah, side by side. That is what is being created. And these brothers are here. And we said, you know what, in order to deal with the culture of violence, we got to deal with the violent acts themselves, but we also have to address the subculture of violence. That means that we've got to begin to deal with, the issues of mass incarceration of our brothers. We've got to talk about positive reentry programs so that our brothers, when they get out of prison, some of them which are serving prison sentences for things like marijuana that you can go almost on every corner and buy out of stores from folk who don't look like us, but that now it's legal. When we look at issues, we got to deal with issues and the differences of how now there's an opioid crisis, which is not typically folks of color, is now seen as a public health crisis. But when our brothers and sisters are dying of crack cocaine and crack addiction and heroin addiction, they're seen as problematic and not a public health crisis. So we have to begin to deal with this subculture of violence that says, hey, it's okay to act out whenever you experience pain. I say this a million times, that riots and violence are tantrums of the soul. And so we've got to begin to deal with those individuals. We've got to deal with the educational inequities. We've got to deal with equal justice. We've got to talk about poverty and the employability and access to fair wages, justice in this felony system. That's what we should probably call it, because I remember someone said that they would not be satisfied till every one of our brothers had a felony. So there are so many systems that we've got to begin to deal with, and we've got to begin to pull these pieces apart. We've got to change narratives. And so what we saw with the HELP mentoring program is just the tip of the iceberg of what these brothers understand is necessary. Many who are entrepreneurs and own their own businesses or consulting companies, or working in great state officials, understanding that we've got to begin to chip away at things piece by piece. Now, what I want to say is that this past weekend, working with those young men, we had two groups of men. The first group of young men were about 11 to 13. The second group was 14 and older, or excuse me, 11 to 14. And then the second group was 15 and older. And the first group came in and we were so impressed. They were soaking up everything that we were putting down. The second group came in, and when you get to those 15, 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, what I love about this is that these were not, this is not a program where we pull all the best kids with all the best GPAs and we put them on display and say, look how great they are, give us money for them. No, that ain't what this is. What we saw was we got some of the kids who really need help. A lot of kids who were fatherless. Some of these kids who our first interaction with them were in the streets, picking them up at gas stations or walking to corner stores. And our men were engaging them. And this is how they got involved with this program. And we saw, one of the brothers and, came in with an issue that he was dealing with in the midst of that moment. But to see these brothers put their arms and embrace these young men, to share with them their stories, to give them Larry Walker, Andre Miller, great job in terms of you sharing your personal testimonies of where you've been and how you are making the effort and the strides to impact the community that you are a detriment to. I salute you all, but every single brother that was a part of this weekend, I certainly thank you. Now, what I loved as well is that there were men who showed up the day of the event. They just heard that it was going on and wanted to be a part of it. How can I be a mentor? How can I get involved? And as I said, this is not my program this is for the city of Saginaw. Am I one of the leaders of the program? Absolutely so. But it was great to see men feel like they could be a part, because they understood that this is not a one-man pony. It's not any group. We're not isolating men. We are asking all men who desire to see change in the lives of young men to come and be a part. So we're meeting again. We're doing a bi-weekly regimen. We'll be meeting again on October 14th at 2609 East Genesee. That is New Beginnings Ministry. Thank you, Pastor Roy Baldwin, for opening up your doors and your space. It was absolutely amazing event. The mothers that were there were crying and saying that we were an answer to prayers. The brothers that were in there, it was a little mist in the room because I could feel, the mist hitting my forehead and my face. But it was an emotional experience to see these brothers open arms, share their scars, show their wounds, and then give some positive feedback on how things can be different. So I want to say congratulations to everyone that is involved. I shared that information with the mayor of our city. She came into one of our group chats and thanked all of those brothers for being so committed to that problem. It's important for us to understand two things. We have to celebrate those young men and women in our community who are doing great things. So oftentimes we spend so much time dealing with the problem that we can't really celebrate the young people who are doing great things. That is a very important piece of what we must do. Always celebrate those who are high achievers and allow them to know that we have their backs. But we also have to get to a point that we can't just put our best students forward all the time. We got to go out and find those who are falling in the cracks, who have been missed, who are hurting, because really rage is really an expression of pain that one is experiencing and not knowing the adequate way to do that. And so we've got to begin to work with those. Althea Duchess Anderson, she was there. She heard about it. I don't know if it was on the radio or on social media. She says it was great. I enjoyed it as much as the young kings. Absolutely. Every young man was a king. And what I loved, and this was something that was so beautiful because we don't see this often. Our mentors, they said, hey, they were standing in the park and they were greeting these young kings, as we referred to them. The moment that they got out the door, when they pulled up and the doors open, they were, here's another young king. And the young men were smiling like, oh, why are they calling me a king? Because you are a king. And then we address their mothers and the women as queens. I told you that on this show, as we talk about Black women in our community, in whatever aspect we talk, we are always going to refer to them as queens. We are going to protect Black women. We're going to honor Black women, and we're going to put them in the appropriate place in our lives that they need to be, because they have held us down for so long. And so once again, you Black queens, I say over and over and again, we salute you and we thank you for all that you do and are doing. We're going to get to the topic of our conversation. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the need to build strong partnerships. The need to build strong partnerships. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more of Straight Talk.
You're listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1.
Batter up, Mid-Michigan. Ryan Wasik here from Bell Wasik GMC Buick, your only local Buick dealer and home of the lifetime warranty. I want to watch the great American pastime, but my bases are loaded and I'm way too busy. So this month, help me catch up, and I'll help you catch a fly deal. It's my World Series of trade-ins. So if your old ride's a swing and a miss, you could get up to $3,000 more than Kelley Blue Book value based on the price of the car you pick. Only during my Grand Slam Payoff Playoff. Plus, my solution specialists are better than a box of Cracker Jacks. They never let the fear of striking out keep them from trying their hardest. Our goal is to hit a home run every time so you can drive home in a car you love. So if your old ride's been striking out, pitch it, and you can get up to $3,000 more than Kelley Blue Book value based on the price of the car you pick. But hurry, just 1, 2, 3 strikes and this deal is out. I'm Ryan Wasik and I'm your dealer for the people and your only local Buick dealer. See my all-star rides at RyanApproved.com. That's RyanApproved.com.
Credit requires bank approval. Vehicle purchase price determines actual trade allowance. Negative equity may be refinanced. Offer absolutely ends October 31st, 2023.
The new iPhone 15 Pro with titanium is here. Switch to my plan from Verizon at your local store today, and you'll get the amazing new iPhone 15 Pro on us with unlimited ultimate when you trade in any iPhone, any model, any condition. Guaranteed. Yep, even the old phone in your pocket right now. It's your Verizon. $999.99, 128 gigabyte only. Device payment purchase or full retail purchase with new smartphone line on unlimited ultimate plan required. Less $1,000 trade-in or promo credit applied over 36 months. Promo credit ends if eligibility requirements are no longer met. 0% APR.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
Hey, it's Steve Harvey, y'all. Here's what happened on the Steve Harvey Morning Show. You're going to fall in some ditches. You're going to be in some rivers with some strong currents. You're going to be in some dark places. You're going to wind up, man, in an alleyway. You're going to wind up, man, going down the bright lights. You're going to have to face it when it hits you, as life does us all. Get up and keep moving. Don't just lay there. Nothing that happens to you is permanent unless you allow it to be. KISS 107.1, simply the best R&B.
This is the KISS community page where you'll find out about everything going on in the Great Lakes Bay region areas of Saginaw, Bay City, and Midland. Our Kids World Back to School edition this Saturday, September 30th at Fashion Square Mall. The fun takes place from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. This family-friendly event will have activities for all ages, vendors to check out, and bounce houses to enjoy. This event is free fun for kids and their families. Harvest Fest is here, October 4th through the 8th at Kingdom Life Ministries, 310 South Jefferson Avenue in Saginaw. For more information, visit harvest-fest.org. Michigan State University Extension is offering a free mental health first aid class that's happening Wednesday, October 11th, and Thursday, October 12th from 12:30 to 4:30 p.m. Learn how to assist someone experiencing a mental health challenge or crisis. This is a virtual event and you must register online. Community organizers, please send your events to the KISS community page at least 2 weeks in advance. For more details and to find out about all the great events, log on to kisswtlz.com.
It's Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on KISS 107.1.
This is Kareem, and we're back with more of Straight Talk. Today, we're going to be talking about the need to build strong partnerships. And I know that I told you all at the beginning of the year that the buzzword for this year is the word collaboration. Collaboration. And I think that we often think that when we come together that we have to compromise. But I think that when we collaborate, we bring the best solution to the forefront. And so I want to talk. I was having a conversation, and I'm going to be very transparent about something. And I'm probably going to say something. I hope I don't get myself in trouble. But this is straight talk, no chase it, no filter. I'm going to give it to you straight. I had a conversation, and I was talking with someone the other day, and it was a pastor in our community. He was sharing with me about a program that is coming to the community that is dealing with housing. And I knew that this was happening because before the real push began to take place, someone had asked me what my thoughts were about how to engage in communities of color as it relates to getting into those communities and really being involved. And I shared my perspective. And when I found out the individual that was behind the thrust, I felt some particular type of way, as I often do. And I don't do that just to be antagonistic. And many times when you are a Black man who is, I don't want to say sure of himself, but I am confident. But I'm also confident in the fact that God has brought me to a place and he gives me certain things and he gives me impressions and an understanding and puts me in places because he knows that I'm not afraid to stand up against those who may consider themselves the status quo. And oftentimes I will find myself speaking on behalf of those who are, how shall we say, often overlooked in a community. It doesn't have to be that way because I could enjoy the relationships and being placed in certain spaces and table and not be bothered by it. But unfortunately, that is just not how the cookie crumbles in my world. And so we were having a conversation about this organization that wanted to come in, and they were hosting an event at another church in our community. And they were asking me what I thought about it. And, I said, it's interesting that the buzzword across the country now is affordable housing. And I say this because it's important for us to understand the issue on affordable housing is not a new phenomena, but the fact that it is now the buzzword, affordable housing, affordable housing, affordable housing. It should let you know that there's something greater that is at play. We have always had a need for affordable housing. We've always had a lack of housing, a real sustainable living housing in the community of Saginaw. Many of our housing opportunities, some of them have been torn down. Some things were lack of vision. Some were just really trying to deal with the issues of blight. I fault no one on why the situation exists because this is something that we've seen taking place across the country. But as we were having these conversations, and I have to give a shout out to Representative Amos O'Neill, because he was one of the first individuals that really began to talk about dollars coming down for housing and preparing yourself and putting yourself in position. And what I like about Representative O'Neill is his no nonsense approach. Give me a plan or shut up. I can't work, with your thoughts, your ideas, your complaints, but put together a plan and that we can utilize a professional plan and let's move forward. Well, what we have seen happen is that there's an organization that's moved in our community, and I have my particular thoughts about that organization. And I don't know about everything. And let me be fair. Let me do that first. Let me be very fair about what I'm getting ready to say. Because as we talk about the entirety of this organization that has been meeting, starting with faith-based organizations, with churches, and community orgs, someone said, hey, why don't you get Kareem as a part of this board, and I think that I was probably not going to lay down or not be excited because you're going to throw some dollars at me to lie over and to accept it. And I'm not saying that that's what those people do, but I'm just telling you, when people move into our community, that's how they engage us. They give a certain key people who they feel people listen to a few dollars, and then they begin their process. So anyways, if it had not been for me sitting at the table with two CEOs, one of them being the one who scheduled the meeting, and the other being someone that we were engaging about building opportunities for economic development and entrepreneurialism in the city of Saginaw. And this individual is responsible and in charge of a very large bank in the community. And as we were having this conversation, the person that I was sitting with was saying, rich people acquire assets with public money. This is why it is so important and popular. And absolutely, that's exactly where we are going with this conversation. Shar Goolsby, she says, let's just skip the red tape and just jump straight to the matter. That's exactly what we're going to talk about. How rich people acquire assets with public money. And they don't show us how to do it. When we try to do it, we're blocked from certain types of funding. But anyways, this particular individual who was spearheading this group, I was in a meeting with them probably a month prior to me first hearing them launch this. I knew that this was coming. And my pitch was, why don't we do some things? This is why the other CEO of a corporation brought me in to sit down and talk with them while we were having breakfast. And they said, hey, why don't we do this? And we bring in, since we're talking about, capitalism doesn't have to be one-sided, but, there should be a conscious to how we raise and we make money. There are efforts. Ron Sasodio was here before, not too long ago, talking about conscious capitalism and the idea that capitalism can be a win-win situation. Someone doesn't have to lose and someone else doesn't have to win in order for this thing to work. And so while we were having this conversation, we was like, why don't we look at how we can invest and build and create a relationship or a partnership with communities of color by working with those who are entrepreneurs. We can, help them to set up businesses. We can give them some insight, some education, some training, things of that nature. And then we could position them in such a way that those businesses and entrepreneurs who are ready to move forward can then say, hey, I want to take advantage of this opportunity, create a pitch competition that was some real tangible money. We're talking probably like $5,000 that could really help a small business. We put them before a group of panel of judges from community and corporate leaders and other entrepreneurs in our community. And the winner of that would then receive not only a financial influx of cash, but they would also receive additional training to help build them as a minority business in our community. That meant sending traffic and other resources and an opportunity in business their direction, and then rinse, wax, and repeat this whole thing and create a system in which we understand that small businesses are the backbone to every community in this nation. And I thought this was an amazing opportunity. And while we were having this conversation, and we're going to talk about the need for strong partnerships. I've not forgotten this, but I need you to understand this story. And while we were having this conversation, the gentleman that we were pitching this to, who happens to be the same gentleman that is now pushing, I want to help Blacks in communities and minority communities and to have sustainable and a quote unquote affordable housing. He then turns and looks at me and says, why do we have to give them anything? Referring to the Black business owners and community individuals that we were talking about working with them. Why do we have to give them anything? And the other gentleman, who was also a CEO, who happens to be a white man, he looked at me and I could see oh my God, Kareem, I'm so sorry I have you in this meeting with this jerk. That was kind of the look. That's not what was said, but it was the reaction that was given in terms of the look. And so the gentleman got up and he went to the restroom. And when he went to the restroom, the other gentleman that we were sitting with that set up the meeting said, Kareem, I'm sorry. And I said, what are you sorry about? He says, I can't believe this dude took this tone. He's talking about he wants to help and he wants to build businesses, and he wants more Black businesses to get involved. But when we talk about how we can do this, and there may be a need for assistance because of this history of what has taken place in Black communities with not having access to capital and having, not having all of the ducks in a row. There's a reason why so many Black businesses operate the way that they do. All of it ain't just their inability to operate in a professional capacity, but some of these things are historical factors. He says, I'm sorry that I put you in this position. And I wasn't blown away. I think that the other gentleman was. I wasn't blown away because I'd seen this before. I had heard this type of conversation before. What was intriguing was that the individual had no issue with saying what they were going to say directly to my face. And I can respect that, as a matter of fact. But don't talk about conscious capitalism, and don't talk about how it's important to get, Black people to come in and be a part of your organization and to pay their dues. And then turn around a month later or so, and I hear that you now won't have a plan for saving Black America and creating quote unquote affordable housing. And this is a work of your passion now that you're getting ready to retire. And, there was some feedback and some things that taken place. And if anybody who understands what's happening in our community, I don't have to say these individual names. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You know who I'm speaking of. And I was really ticked off, and I wanted to just drop bombs. I just really wanted to do that. But my cooler, wiser self understood that that's not what was needed in this moment. But I did have some conversation with other leaders in the community. You got to understand that there are certain people that that will be targeted. We're talking about the need to build strong partnerships, but I got to lay this out so that what I say as we have that conversation makes sense. You have to understand that when people who are not a part of our community, who are not a part of the village, when they want to do business in our community because it is a good business move for them, and trust me, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. Nobody is coming into your community to do business with you in your community, a community that has been isolated, that has been overlooked for development, that has been put on the back burner, that has been seen as an eyesore for decades and given no assistance with the situation. No one is coming into your community because they are interested in solely helping you. They are there because there is a business purpose. And for people who operate in finance and banks and things and they understand the power and the value of real estate and how to get rich off of real estate. And oftentimes they use our communities of blight by allowing the property values to be driven down to pennies on the dollar, coming back in, buying those things, and then creating communities that we don't live in that have a purpose and a value that is not for the intended population that currently exists. And so that was my issue. Now, and as I said to you at the beginning of this group that is now going around that has a purpose that is higher than what we're thinking right now, is out in the community and making moves and doing things for the purpose of affordable housing in communities of color. Now, so they went to what often happens is they go to individuals that they feel are most like them. And it's commonplace for folks who are not a part of communities of color to decide who our leaders are going to be. So they engage certain individuals that they think they have, a great standing, or they have a good platform, or this is a big church, or and they engage those individuals thinking that if we get them, we can use this individual to bring the rest of the village into submission or in alignment with what we're doing. This is a real conversation, and anybody who understands what's happening in our community, if you know, and it's very clear. And I'm not parsing words. I'm being very direct with what I'm saying, and I mean every word that I say. And especially when you have individuals that don't have any real value or purpose connected to the community that we're part of. Even if you don't live in the city, Saginaw, but you went to an East Side elementary school, or you went to daycare on the East Side, or you grew up and went to the high school or whatever it is, or you own property there, or you are part of a ministry there. You have an investment in that community because you have been here for a long time. But oftentimes they engage individuals who have similar thought patterns that they do, or and not necessarily like they're doing it because they're dumb or they don't know what's going. That's not what I'm saying. But they do it in a way because they understand that they don't have such a greatest commitment to the community in which they're trying to enter into, and they get into these spaces and these places for the purpose of doing what they want to do, and it's control. I need you to understand there's only so much land that they're going to create in our community, and ain't no more being created on this planet. And so what took place was I now see that there are some targets and some insights. I've been told that there were some donations of a few $1,000s here or there. Black folks, let's stop allowing ourselves to be bought by things, by small donations, trinkets, and tokens, and we give up the whole kit and caboodle because someone has donated a couple $1,000s to something that, they have our back. Let's be a bit more dynamic in our thinking, and let's think about the long game. Oftentimes, we fall short in doing so. And so now this entity is there, and my prayer is because they hear and they have the financial backing, they have the dollars. The word is, hey, we're here, we're going to do it, because what they'll do is they'll do it nicely, and then when you don't give them what they want, then they'll come by force, and that's what's happening in many ways. But if we bow down and we accept the appeasement offerings, then they come in and they do what they need to do, and before we know it, we are no longer a majority stakeholder in the places that we are. Now, what does that mean? Am I saying no to outside influences? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we have to be smarter about how we create partnerships. And our churches and our community organizations that are aiding in our community have to be strong in our connection, that when things happen, that we bring those insights back to the table. That when anyone wants to do business in our community, they understand that there is a process by which the village goes and they engage one another. And we're not hiding secrets. We're not going to tiptoe to the tulips. We're going to let the community know exactly what's taking place so that the community can be involved in what's taking place in their community, is what I'm saying. So there is a need to build stronger partnerships so that we can no longer be leveraged. Because I told you that no one's going to come into our community and save us from the ills that we have with an S on their chest. That's why groups like HELP and the Unity in the Community Kickball Tournament, which changes the narrative of what's happening in those things are so important because they are FUBU, for us, by us. And we've got to begin to understand that even if we don't have the financial backing that we need in every aspect, if we could stick together and build a sense of unity in our community and understand that there are no splitting of hairs, you're not going to, feed dollars into one place and get that piece to fraction off and divide and conquer. So no one leads alone and no one ever has. That's why partnership building and maintaining strong interdependent relationships that advance our vision is an integral part of leadership. This is a core piece of leadership. If anyone is out there and they're doing this all by themselves and they're the only one that's making it happen, and they're the only, that's a problem, because no one ever leads alone. And it's more than just collaboration or team building. It's connecting with people to build community in and around a shared goal. I've talked from a million times from this platform saying that one of the key things that we need as a community is to have an urban agenda. I'll say it more clearly than that, a Black agenda. What are the things that are important and are essential to our community, for our community? And we need to coalesce around these ideas and these thoughts so that when people come into our community for a vote, for access to our community, we already have an understanding of what's very important, and we understand how to use those things to move forward, to make great change happen, and not to be lost in the sauce when it comes to what's happening in our community. Partnership, when steeped in relationship and done with intention, can turn a petition into a full protest. or make a database into an amazing app. It can help individuals and organizations feel more connected, tap into those resources, and become stronger and more resilient. This is what building strong partnerships is. It's not just about ideas, but it's really about identifying shared goals and purposes, and then putting those resources, our talent, our time, and our intellect, as well as our dollar, around these situations so that we can begin to really build partnership. But the problem is that it's not easy. It's difficult because we're all human, and we have egos, and we've got histories, and we got folks like myself who are going to say what they think. That sometimes isn't offensive, but I always tell people, first the truth will tick you off, but then it will set you free. And so we've got to make sure that we've got to deal with those things that separate us, those fears, because all of this stuff, when it gets mixed together, has the potential to create beautiful harmony or a fiery explosion. But I believe that we have really turned the corner on some things here in the Michigan Bay region, the Great Lakes Bay region, and that we are at a place where I think that the community, the village, is ready to work together. I see so many things that inspire me. I see so many things that get me excited. I see so many things that are happening that really let me know that this is the time. If we're ever going to build strategic partnerships that are going to endure the testing of those outside the village, the time is now. So how can we harness this partnership, this power of partnership, without losing ourselves or important projects in this process? Because it's not about being anti-outside. Because the fact of the matter is, everything that happens that's good in our community is only going to be made better when it is a very diverse population that is helping to bring these ideas, the dollars, the talent, the attention to the table. So diversity is always important, whether it's in the village or outside the village, whether it's in corporate America or it's in the hood. Diversity of solving problems is always a very important piece that we have to operate. That means that Black folks, Black community, the village, we need white America. White America, you need Black America. Latinos, Hispanics, Latinx, we need each other. And so it's time for us to understand that together, united, we stand, and divided, we truly fall. All right, so I want to get to start giving you a couple of points that I really would like us to have some roundtables, and maybe, I know CAP is doing roundtable discussions. This is what they do. I think that this is a really great place for us to talk. How do we build this urban agenda? How do we build a quote unquote Black agenda? How do we build a partnership that is ironclad, that is fortified, that individuals aren't picked off by promises or a few dollars or hopes of being quote unquote the man in a situation, but we would understand that we are only our best when we thrive and drive together. The first thing I want us to think about is that we've got to begin to build relationships first. One thing that I've noticed as I've been thrust into what we might call a leadership role in the city in our community is that there are a lot of people that work together, and there are people that know people, but we haven't done the best job of really building relationships. I see Dr. Mamie Thorns, and I want to say this, Dr. Thorns, because this is a great example of our existence, and I want to use this as an example. Dr. Thorns has been out at SVSU's campus forever, so she has been a part of what has been happening. She has been, the director and the voice of diversity, equity, and inclusion for a very long time. And so myself, as a young man that went out there, I went out and just started working with students and doing things. And Dr. Thorns reached out. She says, "Yo, Kareem, I see, you're able to reach some of these students in a way that we're not able to, maybe because we're administration and you're working from a grassroots level." So we began to think about those things, and we were talking and doing some things, and we continued to it seems like something was not necessarily in sync. I love her and I respect her, and we have a great relationship to some degree, but that relationship was really based upon just us seeing and knowing each other in similar places. And this is what I talk about when I said we've got to build strong relationships first. And we didn't really know each other, but over the course of the past couple of years, we've had an opportunity to kind of sit and break bread, sit in the office and kind of talk about things. And we began to realize that some of the things that were going on were not necessarily Dr. Thorns and myself, but other entities capitalizing on the fact that I did not know my sister, and my sister didn't know me. And when we create opportunities for partnership and we build on a desired or a shared idea, but we don't know each other, we lend spaces for other people to interpret things that we say or do to mean something differently. So what we have been able to do and what we committed to do, and I thank you, Dr. Thorne, you came in at a great time, is that we've committed to stay in touch. We've committed to continually have conversation. When we hear something that doesn't sound like the individual, we said, we're going to have these conversations. We're going to talk. And we've become stronger because of it. And now that there is a changing in administration, we now have a relationship that allows us to build trust and build a partnership around a shared interest and a desire. But it was important for the relationship to start before the partnership. So I want us in our community to start building opportunities, not for us to do partnerships, but for us to get to know the individuals that are in our community. The Bible has a very interesting statement that it says, a verse, it says, know those who labor among you. Meaning that the key to really building strong relationships, building strong partnerships, lies in building strong relationships. So let's begin with building relationships that matter first, instead of starting with those partnerships. The second thing that I want to say, the second point that I want to share, and I hope that we have these opportunities to do this more in person, is that we partner outside of the box. And this is so very important. Many times we think of, our goals as a straight line, and we look at people who are doing exactly the same things as a way for us to accomplish. They're doing this and we're doing this, so let's do it together. But let's seek out partners you think are interesting. Let's look at being innovative and creative in how we build these relationships. Even if you don't know how you might work together, let's start with building the relationship and then find what common goals and ideas and shared values that we might have. And then we might be able to find meaning in these partners across movements. And so we have a cross-sectional partnership versus a unilateral partnership in which we're going to solve one thing. There may be interconnected, woven pieces of things that we can do that when we begin to think outside the box, even connecting with those that we would consider scientists and teachers and engineers and artists. I think it's so vitally important. One of the things that I really love that this new president, Dr. Grant, is doing out at Saginaw Valley is that he's connecting with businesses. He understands that he is the chief fundraiser at the university, bringing in dollars, but he's also building coalitions and partnerships with entrepreneurs and small businesses and community leaders and pastors. And when we are thinking outside the box, you never know who may have the solution to the problem that you're trying to solve if you only think unilaterally. Let's think outside the box. It's time for us to do that anyway in everything that we do. Let's start smashing boxes. Let's not allow ourselves to be Jack in the box that we pop out anytime that what's inside that content inside the box seems to be important. But let's start smashing boxes and pour the contents on the counter, and let's think outside of the box. The third thing that I want us to do is to begin to use tools. Purpose, outcome, process. POP. Purpose, outcome, process. Keeping everyone aligned and on track is so vitally important. Many times a great partnership can be hijacked because there is no process by which we remain in alignment. I understand that when we were doing this organization with help, and these are brothers from every walk of life. I said, you know what, my responsibility in this is going to be purpose, outcome, and process, to make sure that we remain in alignment and that we keep the main thing, and that we don't major in minors and minor in majors. All right, so we're going to give feedback. This is point number 4. Let's give some feedback. Sharing feedback not only builds trust, but it also keeps communication open so that when problems arise, they don't ruin the relationship. Remember, we're going back to that base value. They don't ruin the relationship you've worked so hard to build. Positive feedback is just as important or more useful than the constructive kind. So let's make sure that as we build these relationships and we enter into these partnerships, that you spend time building value in the people that are around you. When we talk about building partnerships, we're talking about building people. And the way that we build people is by building value in those people. You did an amazing job. I like the way that you handled that. So many times we enter into a place and we become critical, and we want to give constructive criticism on something when we haven't empowered that person by providing a positive feedback. So I always say a 2-to-1 ratio. Before I can say one negative thing or give one piece of constructive criticism, I have to provide 2 pieces of positive reinforcement and positive feedback. All right. And the last thing that I want to say is we've got to be willing to accept the feedback as it comes. Feedback helps us to learn and become better leaders. I would not be the leader that I am today. Not that I'm the greatest person on the planet. I don't think of myself that way, but I do understand that I have value as a leader. And a great part of how I've become the leader that I am was not just by doing everything right, because I haven't. I failed so many times. But I've had individuals that were willing to give me honest feedback. I had individuals that were willing to pull my coattail and pull me aside and say, hey, you did this. This may not be the best way that you could do this, but I think that, you're on the right track. Keep shooting, keep trying, keep going forward. And in that process, I realized that I can get all the positive feedback that that the world could possibly give me, but I had to be willing to accept it. And oftentimes it's hard to accept things, especially from folk that you don't have relationship with. And so we've got to begin to build those relationships, because the strength of our partnership is based upon the relationships that we have. Sharice Steele Phillips, a great leader, is receptive to constructive criticism. That's absolutely right. But what we also want to say there is that wise followers understand that there is a burden and a heaviness and a challenge that goes with leadership. And I say this for our city council leaders. I say this for our presidents, our educational leaders, from those who are from Saginaw Valley to Saginaw High School. Understand that leaders are at the forefront. They carry a burden. They have to deal with tasks. You're not the only individual. So as you provide your constructive criticism, let's make sure that it's constructive and not destructive. Let's make sure that we're providing insight and not just complaining. I want to thank you guys for your time and attention. Let's build these relationships so that we can build strong collaborative partnerships, so that there will be no space between our shared vision and our ideas for our community, so that no one can drop dollars to gain access, to take control, but it's the partnership, the shared vision, and the ideas that build the pathway. I certainly thank you always for tuning into Straight Talk. I'm your host. As we always say, take care of yourselves and one another. God bless you all. Grace and peace.
You're listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on Kiss 107.1.
You've been listening to Straight Talk with Kareem Bowen on Kiss